Welcome to Italy. You know, you can look at as many photos of this place as you want, but there's a certain kind of warmth in the air here, a feeling that a camera just doesn't quite catch. It's usually in the quiet moments, away from all the noise, where you really start to see it. I thought we'll spend some time looking for that version of the country together. Not just the stuff you see on the everyday travel guide, but the places that actually make you stop for a second. So, let's go deeper into the history and the culture of this land. I'm glad you're here. We are moving high into the Dolomites, climbing directly toward the big rock peaks. This is Lago di Braies. People call it the Pearl of the Alps because the water is so blue it looks fake. It sits very high up, right at the foot of a giant stone wall. It is a very quiet place where the air is cold and you can hear the water hitting the shore. The most famous part of this lake is the wooden dock and the small boats. For a long time, people have come here to be in the quiet, but there is a serious history here too. At the very end of World War II, this spot was used to trade important prisoners. It shows that even a place this pretty has been part of a big moment in history. As you walk along the edge of the water, you see how everyone tries to catch a bit of this beauty for themselves. Whether it's taking a photo or just standing still to look at the view, it is a place that makes you want to stop. There is a simple path that follows the shoreline, letting you see the lake and the massive mountains from every side. It's a moment to just be part of the landscape. The light here changes very fast. 1 minute the water looks like green glass, and the next it turns into a deep, dark blue. It depends on how the sun hits the rock walls and the trees. Because the mountains are so high, they create big shadows that move along the lake all day long. You can also see how the clouds and the fog move through the peaks. Sometimes the mountains are completely hidden and then they suddenly appear again. It makes the lake feel even more private and cut off from the rest of the world. It is a reminder that nature is always in control up here. Even in the summer, the water stays very cold because it comes from the melting snow on the peaks above. You can see how clear it is near the edge, showing the white sand and rocks on the bottom. Most people just dip their hands in to feel the temperature, enjoying how fresh the mountain air feels against the water. As we head deeper into the heart of the Dolomites, the landscape opens up into one of the most famous valleys in the world. This is Val di Funes. It's a place where the green of the Medals is so bright it almost looks painted, sitting right at the feet of the massive, jagged towers of stone that the locals call the Odal Peaks. The stone here is unique, and long ago people called these the Pale Mountains. According to the old stories, the rocks were once dark and moody, but a group of mountain spirits spun the light of the moon into silk and draped it over the peaks to make them glow. While we know today it's actually ancient coral and limestone, when the sun hits those grey walls, it's easy to believe there's still a bit of that moonlight left in the stone. Scattered across the valleys are tiny, beautiful churches that have stood here for centuries. These weren't built for large crowds. They were built as quiet sanctuaries for the farmers and woodcutters who worked these high slopes. The most famous one sits all alone in a wide green field. It serves as a reminder of the deep faith of the mountain people and their desire to find peace in the middle of such a wild, powerful landscape. As the light shifts against the tall grass, the valley feels completely still. From the higher paths, the houses look like tiny toys tucked at the foot of giant stone walls. Everything here is exactly where it has been for hundreds of years, following a slow, simple rhythm. Leaving the stillness behind isn't easy, but the memory stays with you. As the sun moves behind the sharp needles of the Odal peaks, the valley falls into a deep shadow. It is a final reminder that the best parts of the world are often the ones that stay hidden, kept safe by the mountains themselves. As we travel through the deep valleys of the north, we reach a city where two different worlds come together. This is Bozen. It sits right at the edge of the high mountains, and it's a place where Italian style meets the traditions of the Alps. You can see it in the buildings, which have colourful walls and pointed roofs that look like they belong in a mountain legend. Bozen has been an important stop for travellers for hundreds of years. Because it sits in a wide valley between the high peaks, it became a famous place for merchants to meet and trade goods from all over Europe. You can still see this history in the long covered walkways that line the streets. These were built so people could shop and talk even when it was raining or snowing outside. From the streets of the old town, you can always see the massive stone peaks of the Dolomites looking down on you. It's a city that feels safe and cozy, tucked in a giant bowl of green hills. It is the perfect bridge between the warm valleys below and the wild, icy world above. At the very edge of Lake Garda, this is Limone. For hundreds of years, this place was almost impossible to reach by land. It sat here in total silence, protected by these massive, towering stone cliffs and the deep blue water. Because there were no roads, the people here lived a life that was completely separate from the rest of the world. Even today, you can still feel that sense of quiet. It's a place where time seems to have slowed down. What makes this town so special is how it was built. Because the cliffs are so steep, there was no flat ground to build on. Instead of giving up, the people carved their homes directly into the rock. They built high stone walls and heavy pillars that look like they are holding up the mountain itself. Every street is narrow and winding, designed to fit into the natural shape of the cliffs. It wasn't built for cars or crowds. It was built to survive in a wild, rocky landscape. Before the first road was finally cut through these mountains in the 1930s, the only way in or out of Limone was by boat. The lake was the only highway. This forced the people to be very creative and strong. They used the water for everything, and it became the center of their culture. As you look at the old harbor and the small fishing boats today, you are seeing a way of life that hasn't changed much in centuries. It's a reminder that sometimes being isolated from the world is exactly what keeps a place beautiful. When you walk away from the water and into the heart of the village, you start to see the smaller details that make this place feel like home. The faded colours on the walls and the old stone steps tell a story of many generations who lived here. There is a quiet pride in the way the locals look after their town. It's not just a tourist spot, it is a real community that has stood its ground against the mountains for a very long time. The water here is so clear that it feels more like the ocean than a lake. On a bright day, the colours are incredibly vivid, with the white stone of the buildings standing out against the deep turquoise of the bay. You can see straight to the bottom in the shallow parts, showing just how clean and untouched this corner of Italy remains. It is a view that hasn't changed in hundreds of years, and it still feels just as powerful today. When you stand at the edge of the water and look up at the peaks, you really feel how small the town is compared to the mountains. It's a peaceful, steady rhythm that forces you to just stop and breathe. Limone isn't just a pretty view, it's a story of how people can make a home in the most difficult places, as long as they respect the land around them. Leaving the rugged cliffs of Garda, the landscape begins to soften as we head into the plains of Lombardy. Our next stop is a city that feels like it's floating on the water itself, Mantua. Surrounded on three sides by artificial lakes, it was designed to be a fortress and a masterpiece. This city was a power seat of the same family for nearly 400 years. They turned what was once a marshy outpost into one of the most refined courts in Europe. It's a place of immense artistic wealth, where the transition from the medieval world to the height of the Renaissance is carved into every stone. As you move deeper into the city, you're surrounded by a labyrinth of history and art. The skyline is dominated by grand palaces and high vaulted ceilings, home to some of the most important frescoes in the world. Here, the art wasn't just decoration, it was a statement of absolute influence and legacy. But beyond the grand buildings, there's a quiet dignity to Mantua. It's a place where history isn't just kept in a museum, it's lived in every day. From the local food traditions to the wide open squares, you get the sense that the entire city was designed to be a masterpiece. It feels like a world of its own, tucked away from the rush of a modern life. In these streets, you can feel the weight of the centuries in the stone. Every grand facade tells a story of a time when this was a cultural capital. But the journey continues. Our next stop is the heart of the Renaissance, Florence. Leaving the open water behind, we're dropping straight into the heart of Florence. There's an immediate change in the energy here. The streets are tighter, the stone is older, and you can feel the weight of the city pressing in on you from every side. It's dense, it's historic, and it's beautiful. The thing about walking through a place like this is that you're constantly looking up. Every corner you turn reveals another facade or a tower reaching into the sky. It's a city built on a scale that makes you feel small, but in the best way possible. You're just a tiny part of a much bigger story. The heart of this city is a central market where people have been trading goods for hundreds of years. You can see it in the energy of the crowds and the way the locals talk and meet in the open squares. It's a place where the old ways are still alive in the streets, from the local shops to the people sharing a meal in the sun. It's a friendly, busy feeling that shows how the history of Florence isn't just kept in stone, but is carried on by the people who live here every day. You don't even have to go inside a museum to see the art here. It's just everywhere. It's in the statues standing out in the rain, the carvings above a random doorway, and the way the locals have maintained this look for centuries. In Florence, the city itself is the gallery. Then there's the sensory side of things. The smell of leather from the markets, the sound of scooters bouncing over the cobbles, and of course, the food. Whether it's a quick bite on the street corner or a long meal in the hidden courtyard, you realize that the culture here is as much about the present as it is the past. It's easy to get lost in the rhythm of Florence, but there is still so much ground to cover. Under the bright afternoon sun, we're preparing to leave the Renaissance behind. We're swapping these narrow stone streets for the ancient, layered history of the capital as we continue our journey deeper into the heart of the country. Florence has been a beautiful detour, but the road to Rome is now wide open. Rome is on a completely different scale. You can feel the power of the past in the massive stone walls and the busy energy of the streets today. It's a place where every road seems to lead to something ancient. And as the sun sets over the ruins, you realize that while other cities change, Rome always stays the same. We are moving into the heart of the capital now, where the story of the world was written. There's a strange feeling that comes with walking past monuments that have stood for thousands of years. They aren't hiding away, they're just part of the landscape. You see them at the end of a regular street or tucked between modern buildings, standing as permanent reminders of history. The city has this incredible, bright energy that seems to pull you towards the center of the crowd. Everywhere you look, there is something designed to catch the eye. When the sun hits the open spaces, it gives the whole place a vibrant, electric feel that makes the city feel alive. But beyond the famous sights, it's the pace of the city that defines Rome. It's a place that never really seems to sit still. There's a constant flow of movement, a buzz of activity, and a low hum of life happening all at once. It's a beautiful kind of busy. Eventually, you have to stop and just join in. Whether you're grabbing something to eat while you wander or sitting down to watch the world go by, the culture here is about taking a moment to appreciate the surroundings. It's simple, it's rich, and it's exactly the break you need. When you pull away from the main landmarks, you start to see the real character of the city. It's in the smaller streets and the everyday corners that don't get the headlines. You realize that the city isn't just made of famous spots, it's held together by these countless little details. And you can't talk about Rome without talking about the food. It's a city that takes its flavors seriously, where every neighborhood has its own local favorites. From a quick bite on a sun-drenched terrace to the smell of fresh pasta drifting through the air. It's a feel that keeps this whole place moving. There is an honesty to the cooking here. It isn't about being fancy, it's about being perfect. You see it in the way people gather around a table, the passion in the kitchens, and the simple joy of a recipe that hasn't changed in a century. It's the kind of meal that reminds you why you came here in the first place. It's a city of layers, always alive. But we're pushing south. Puglia is next. Leaving the noise of the capital behind, the landscape shifts dramatically as we reach Puglia. This is the deep south of Italy, a land of ancient olive groves and endless sun. But nestled in the Atria Valley is a place that looks nowhere else on earth. a sea of whitewashed stone and conical roofs that feel more like a fairy tale than a modern town. These are the Trilli. Their story is one of incredible human ingenuity and a bit of historical defiance. Centuries ago, the local people were forced to build homes that could be dismantled in an instant. A clever way to avoid property taxes by showing the king's inspectors a settlement that technically wasn't permanent. They used the limestone they found in the fields, stacking it without a drop of mortar. What started as a tax loophole evolved into a unique architectural language. Every stone was placed by hand, creating thick walls that keep the interior cool in the scorching summer heat and warm in the winter. It's a testament to the idea that necessity is the mother of invention, a culture built on the very earth beneath their feet. If you look closely at the grey stone roofs, you'll see strange white symbols painted on the tiles. They are a mix of the religious and the pagan, protection for the family inside, a nod to the sun, or a prayer for a good harvest. They give the town a mystical energy, a reminder that the people here have always stayed connected to their traditions. As you move deeper into the heart of the village, the scale of the place really hits you. It's a maze of high contrast, white and grey, where every turn through a narrow side street leads to another surprise. You're walking through a history that was never meant to be permanent, yet it has outlasted almost everything else around it. There's a stillness here in the middle of the day that makes you feel like you've stepped outside of time entirely. Today, Alberobello isn't just a monument to the past, it's a living community. The white stone glows in the afternoon light, and as the shadow stretches across the narrow lanes, you realize how lucky we are that these temporary homes became such a permanent part of Italy's soul. We're heading inland now, into a rugged area that looks like it belongs in the ancient past. This is Matera. It is one of the oldest cities in the world. Instead of building houses on top of the land, the people here carved their homes directly into the sides of a massive canyon. These famous cave districts are known as the Sassi. This city was born out of a need for shelter. Thousands of years ago, the first settlers found that the soft rock was easy to dig into. They carved out deep rooms to live in and built a clever system to catch every drop of rain. Over time, these caves became a giant maze, where the roof of one house was actually the street for the neighbor living right above them. The culture in the Sassi was built on sharing. Families lived in these stone rooms with their animals, and life centered around small courtyards where everyone helped each other. It was a very simple and hard life, but the community was incredibly strong. For centuries, the people of Matera lived in these caves, hidden away from the rest of the world. There is an amazing story about this place. Only 70 years ago, it was so poor it was called a national shame, and the government forced everyone to move out. The Sassi sat empty like a ghost town for a long time. But eventually, the world realized how beautiful they were. Today, they have been reborn as a global treasure, proving that even the oldest history can find a new life. Leaving the inland plains, we hit the rugged edge of the coast. This is Polignano, Mare. Long before it was a modern destination, this was a vital stop for the Greeks and later a major hub on the Great Roman Road that linked the capital to the east. For over 2,000 years, this hasn't just been a town by the sea, it has been a gateway between worlds, perched on cliffs that have watched the rise and fall of empires. The defining feature of this place is the stone itself. The town is built on a massive shelf of rock that is constantly being reshaped by the water. Over millions of years, the waves have carved out more than 20 deep sea caves right underneath the streets. The history here isn't just recorded in books, it's etched into the very foundation of the buildings. These houses don't just sit on the rock, they are an extension of it. A perfect blend of human effort and the natural landscape. There is a specific toughness to the people who live here. For generations, the families of this town have built their lives vertically, adapting to a world where every square inch of flat ground is a luxury. This environment created a culture of sailors, fishermen, and poets. It's a community that celebrates the dramatic, where even a simple daily walk involves looking down into a sheer drop of bright blue water. That closeness to the edge has shaped a local spirit that is both strong and incredibly welcoming. If you look at the whitewashed walls of the old town, you'll find a unique local tradition. Poetry is everywhere, hand-painted onto doors, steps, and balconies. It's a quiet sign of the town's artistic soul. It's as if the sheer beauty of the location forced the people to find a way to express it in words. It's not done for show, it's a conversation between the residents and the sea that has inspired them for centuries. Life here follows the rhythm of the tides and the sun. In the heat of the afternoon, the town goes silent as the white stone reflects the bright light. But as the evening air cools, the squares fill with life. This is the true soul of the coast, a place that has survived through trade, war and time by leaning into very cliffs that protect it. It's a reminder that even the hardest rock can be turned into a home. Life here follows the rhythm of the tides and the sun. In the heat of the afternoon, the town goes silent as the white stone reflects the bright light. But as the evening air cools, the squares fill with life. This is the true soul of the coast, a place that has survived through trade, war and time by leaning into very cliffs that protect it. It's a reminder that even the hardest rock can be turned into a home. We're heading to the very bottom of the Italian map, deep into the heel of the boot. This is Lecce. It's a city that feels completely different from the rest of the country. While other cities are built with dark stone, Lecce is bright and glowing, filled with a warm golden light that seems to come from the buildings themselves. The secret to this beauty is a special kind of rock found only here. It's a soft stone that is very unique. When it is first dug out of the ground, it is soft like clay, and artists can carve it with simple tools used for wood. But as it sits in the air, it turns into hard rock. This allowed the local builders to carve amazing details, like flowers and animals, all over the walls of the city. Even though this city looks like a giant piece of art, there is an even older story hidden under the ground. Right in the middle of the main square, the earth drops away to show a massive Roman theatre. It was lost for over 1,000 years and was only found by accident a century ago. It reminds us that no matter how beautiful the new buildings are, there is always an ancient world waiting just below the surface. The people of Lecce are very proud of their traditions. You can still find small shops where artists work by hand, just like they did hundreds of years ago. There is a slow, steady rhythm to life here. It's a place that teaches you the best things in life are made of patience and care. It's the perfect end to our journey through the South. We're climbing even higher now, leaving the quiet lakes behind for the most dramatic view in the north. This is the Seceda Ridgeline. It looks less like a mountain and more like a massive wave of stone that has been frozen just as it was about to break. On one side, you have soft green grass, but on the other, the earth just disappears into a sheer, vertical drop of thousands of feet. What's truly fascinating is that these peaks used to be at the bottom of the ocean. Millions of years ago, this whole area was a tropical sea filled with coral reefs. Over vast amounts of time, the movement of the earth pushed these reefs up into the sky, turning them into jagged limestone towers we see today. You are literally standing on an ancient seabed that has been lifted 2 miles into the air. In the local villages below, there are countless stories about these heights. The old legends say that these peaks were once the home of mountain spirits who guarded the valleys. When the clouds roll in and hide the jagged edges, it's easy to understand why the people here respected the mountains so much. It's a place that feels powerful and alive, as if the rocks themselves are watching the world go by. One of the most famous legends tells of a hidden garden of roses that once covered these peaks. It was said to belong to the king of the dwarves, who lived deep inside the rock. When the sun sets today, the mountains often turn a bright, glowing red and orange. The locals say this is the ghost of that ancient garden coming back to life for just a few minutes. It's a natural light show that makes the stone look like it's on fire, a final bit of magic before the day ends. The culture in the valley below is just as unique as the landscape. This area is famous for wood carving, a skill that started during the long winters when people were trapped inside by the snow. They would carve intricate figures and toys out of the local pine wood. It's a tradition of patience and detail that has been passed down for centuries, showing that even in the harshest environments, people find a way to create something beautiful.